Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. Oh, there you are. Good morning. Really feeling excited about this morning's candidate coffee because the primary election is this Tuesday. So this is the last candidate coffee Sunday morning um, of the primary season. Pretty exciting stuff. Hope everyone's doing okay so far on a Sunday. A little bit of surprise sunshine out there was nice to see. Um, yeah, we're going to get right into it this morning. Every week when I do these, excuse me, I'm always marveling at how the time just flies by. And what I want to cover today are a couple of different things particular to voting and election day. And I want to talk about the phase one reopening here in Lane County and other counties across Oregon in response to COVID. And just check in and share a little bit of thoughts about all of those things. So diving right in. Voting. Well, I'm hoping that folks who are watching this, whether live or taped later, have already submitted your ballots, and really encouraging folks to get those in as quickly as possible. It's definitely too late to mail it. You want to put it in one of the official drop boxes, and before this live broadcast is over, we'll connect in the comments some links for you to help you find your Dropbox site that's closest to you. This is really important because it's not about the postmark, it's about when the ballot is received. And this year, due to COVID, there's some extra strain on our county elections workers because they need to be distanced more, physically distanced inside elections where they're opening and feeding the ballots through the counting machines. There's fewer people on the job, and so it's going to take a little longer. And so you're really helping that process move along, and you're helping ensure that the earliest results that we see are the closest to the final results by having as many ballots in time for them to have been counted by 8 p.m. When election day ends. So every ballot that is received by 8 p.m. will be counted, but the sooner you can get it in to Lane Elections, to one of the drop boxes, the sooner elections workers can have those counted and release the largest possible number of ballots counted when they release their first returns at 8 p.m. and then they update those at 10 p.m. So please do mark your ballots and get them into a drop box today or tomorrow morning if you're able. Thank you. So I promised a little earlier in a promo I did for this that one of the things I wanted to talk to you about when it comes to voting always, but in this cycle in particular, I've had a few people ask me, does it matter if I mark my ballot if someone's running uncontested? And, to my mind, as someone who has worked on campaigns and who is now a candidate, I would say, yes, it does. Because those of us running, we want to know that constituents are paying attention to this race, have concerns, and understand how a particular seat affects them and their lives. And so marking your ballot, even when there's not an opponent for the person you're marking it for, helps that candidate have a stronger mandate and sense that their constituency is with them and supportive of what they're doing. So I would absolutely encourage you to mark as many, if not every, race that you can. I also think it's important because it requires us to do a little bit of research into candidates and into the role that they're running for and better understand it. And we should be doing that whether there's 1, 2, or 10 candidates running in a given seat. It's really incumbent on us as voters, as constituents, to understand all the different parts and pieces of our local government and judicial system and who is asking to represent us, and then opting in or not. Because the undervote, which is the number of people that could have filled a bubble in and chose not to in a given race but did turn in a ballot, that number can be really high, and we don't know whether that's because people didn't think it mattered to vote in an uncontested race, or were making a sort of protest vote, if you will, by not voting, or just skipped that one, or whatever. So keeping that undervote number as low as possible, the flip side of that is showing people who are running for office and ultimately elected that their constituents were with them. And it's an important part of being a responsible, informed voter, is doing that research. So I've also had people say, well, where do I do this research? How do I find out about about some of these candidates, particularly in the judicial races, but really all up and down the ballot. And I think it's really important, again, to take a little bit of time. Of course, reading your voter pamphlet is one of the best sources of information, but not all candidates in all races choose to submit a voter pamphlet statement. But they should have social media presence or a website or some way of you learning about their background, their experience, and the issues that they understand to be relevant to the seat they're running for. And I would offer, if a candidate doesn't have some kind of profile or way for you to learn those things about them, then you should consider whether that person um, is ready to be in the position that they're asking for you to vote them into. I think the way campaigns operate can tell you a lot about how a person will serve in a given office. And of course, there's a real difference depending where, in what branch of government, whether it's a local, hyper-local race like a utility commissioner or a soil and water conservation board member or a state legislator or a congressional race. Of course, there are differences, but every and any candidate should be able to articulate that they understand what this role is about and that they have the experience to fill it. And special guest star, uh, so enjoy my cat's hind end here behind me. He's decided 3 a.m. is party time, so we did not get a lot of sleep last night. So yes, I highly recommend doing your research on all your candidates on your ballot and filling in a bubble for each position to the best of your comfort, even if it's an uncontested race. I've also had a lot of people asking me, how do I choose in a contested race when there's more than one great candidate? And I would say that is a wonderful problem to have. Right, we've got several contested races on our ballots, particularly if you live in Eugene and in the District 3, certain parts of the district in which I'm running. The seat I'm running for is a contested race. There are several city council races within the Lane County District 3 that are contested races. We've got statewide seat, like our Secretary of State's office, that's a contested Democrat primary, and there's some legislative races that have contested primaries as well. So the first thing I'll say, just for folks that may not know, some seats are nonpartisan. That means there's not a party primary, Democrat, Republican, Independent, Green Party, Working Families, and so on. There's just one primary election for all the candidates, regardless of party affiliation, and party affiliation isn't mentioned or part of the race. And my race, the county commission seat, is a nonpartisan seat, as are city council and mayoral seats, and things like utility boards and judicial races and so on, school boards, although those are not up right now. So one important thing to know about nonpartisan races, like a county commission seat, is that it can be decided outright in May, on this Tuesday. If any one candidate in the field gets over 50% of the vote, even just by one, so we call it 50% plus one, then they are the only name on the ballot in November. So they still need to be elected in November into office, but they are de facto the one if they get over 50% of the primary votes in May on Tuesday. In party primaries, if they're contested, which again, we have several good Democrats running in legislative seats and for our Secretary of State and so on, then the majority vote getter advances to face the the major party, the Republican challenger, in November. So primary races in party affiliated seats are really important, and it's also tough because those candidates have to raise enough money to get through the primary, but then they also have their big fight in the fall to win. And so there's a common saying in the Democrat Party, particularly around the presidential, is that the primary is your opportunity to fall in love. Find the candidate that you really just feel so good about voting for. You feel aligned with their values. You're appreciating how they're campaigning and the work style that they're showing you and the issues they're talking about. and how they're connecting, and you're just so behind them. That's who you want to vote for, and you're not thinking about, but do they have the best chance of fending off the Republican challenger? And that's an important thing to consider, but it's not the first layer. The first layer is just, do I love this candidate? Do I want to support them in the primary? November, so you fall in love in the primary. November, you fall in line. November is your time to get behind the Democrat because we need big Democrat wins. Obviously, we desperately and urgently need a Democrat win at the top of the ticket for the presidential seat. There's just no question about that. But also here in Oregon, I would say our Secretary of State's race is very important. For the first time in many, many years, we elected a Republican to the statewide office of Secretary of State. And that is a very important signal to the Republican Party that they could get a foothold and do more here in Oregon, and we don't want to see that happen. Some of our best inoculation and defense against the just dreadful and dangerous policies of our federal administration is having good, strong Democrats in state races. Excuse me, my cat is just being as challenging as he could possibly be. So, Democrat primaries, nonpartisan seats, they all matter. Please fill out your bubble on your ballot. Get it into one of the drop boxes. We've linked in the comments to the Dropbox locator. Your ballot, you can track your ballot. Secretary of State's website has a ballot tracker, really simple. We'll put a link in the comments to how you can do that too. So if you haven't received a ballot, please check and see. It'll show you where it was sent. Maybe you've moved and you didn't update your registration. You want to get right on that first thing tomorrow morning to get a replacement ballot if you haven't received one yet. If you have received a ballot and you've already submitted it, the ballot tracker will show you where it is in process if it was received by your local elections office. Candidates, myself included, are making our phone calls to voters since we can't be out knocking doors, and we'll be doing that right through all day tomorrow. And if you have turned your ballot in a while ago and it's already been received by your local elections division, you should be starting to come off of those call lists. So thanks for your patience on that. I also wanted to say about how to choose in contested races, whether partisan or nonpartisan seats. So I talked a little bit about where to research information and to get yourself a sense of who the candidate is. But I really do want to say, and for my race in particular, for this county commission seat, I'm really honored to be running not just in a contested field of candidates, because it ups all of our game when we need to compete for a seat, but we have several races at the local level, mine included, where we really have a tremendous opportunity to elect from a range of types of candidates. We have real extensive diversity of background, of lived experience, of work style, and connections in the community and affinity groups in many of our races. And I just think it's so important that a candidate field reflects ultimately the kind of diversity we want to see on the governing bodies to which we're electing candidates. But it comes down to the fact that we get one vote and we have to pick one candidate. And it's a good problem to have when you have more than one good option. So that's a way of winning already, is having some contested races when there are some really truly qualified, hardworking candidates in them. So good for us, Oregon and Lane County and Eugene and Springfield, for fielding some really robustly diverse, qualified candidates for a number of different races. Thank you, everyone, for doing your part to vote. Turnout was at just shy of 25% at the end of the day Friday. And we know historically those numbers go way up on the last 2 days, but still would love to get those numbers up and get our turnout looking really good. So please do your part and help out Lane Elections workers by getting your ballots in early. Thanks for that. Yeah, I think that's what I wanted to say about voting. What I want to say now is a little bit about reopening. How's everybody feeling out there about this? Lane County is one of the counties approved by the Oregon Health Authority for phase 1 reopening. And I will share with you a little bit of my concern and my request, which is that we all exercise a great deal of caution. And I'm going to say a little something about masks. I am really lucky to have someone in my extended family who's handy with a sewing machine because I am not. And she's made a bunch of masks for me and for my kids and my husband, and really appreciative that I have all these really fun colors. Going to offer up a tip that I'm finding because I'm clumsy and have a hard time tying things behind my head. That little bitty binder clips can be really helpful for holding your mask straps together in the back. Or what I often do, I'll just clip one to my collar when I'm going out by myself for a walk and I'm not sure if I'm going to mask up, but I want to have it with me. So if I encounter someone and want to stop for a chat or decide to hop into the grocery store for a minute, I've got one with me all the time. I get that not everyone has the resource to outfit themselves with a mask, a simple bandana or a t-shirt, anything that you can do to get it as close fitting to your face as possible is better than nothing. And there is absolutely nothing harmful about wearing a mask. There is definitely something helpful. And that one definitively helpful thing is it helps lower everyone's anxiety who's out and about and concerned. And so why wouldn't we do that for one another? And from a medical communicable disease perspective, there's differences of opinion and thought and science as to the degree to which a barrier mask is helpful, but it is helpful. It does something, and we should all be doing every bit that we can to continue to slow the spread of the virus and protect one another and take care of one another that way. We still, with masks, need to keep our physical distance from people that are not part of our immediate quarantine. And something I just learned, a way of thinking about how often to wash your masks, especially your cloth masks. A friend of mine in public health said, think of your masks like your underwear and wash them as often as you do that garment. So there's something hopefully memorable for you to take away. I know it made an impact on me, and when I come in from the grocery store or whatever, I take my mask off and drop it right in my washing machine, wash my hands, sanitize my keys, my phone, the doorknobs, and that's my routine. I hope it's yours too. I know we're all anxious to start feeling some semblance of connection and community and activity. And I know we particularly want to support our beloved restaurants, but we can continue to do that with takeout orders. I just would really urge everyone to be as cautious and think long term about your activities out in the community. Keep your physical distance, wear your mask, and continue, please, to limit your outings as much as possible. Um, the other caution or concern I have is the more we reopen, the more folks from other areas are going to start coming to visit our local community. And we have been doing a tremendous job here in Lane County of keeping each other safe and healthy and protected. But we have to be really cognizant of taking ourselves out to other communities. I know we're all anxious, I know I am, to get back to the coast and walk on the beach. Um, but we just really have to think hard about the risk reward um, benefit of doing these things and think long term. So if you're able, please pace yourself and don't rush to do a bunch of outings and be around a bunch of people. Just because we can doesn't mean that we necessarily should. I also want to make a comment. I've been seeing a lot of things here and there on social media of people angry about certain stores like Costco forcing customers to wear a mask. Nobody is forced. Nobody's going to hold you down and put a mask on your face for you. But being required to do something in order to do business somewhere is something we've been doing this forever, right? You're required to wear a shirt and shoes to shop at some stores. Now you might be required to add a mask. We're required by law to drive the speed limit. We're required by law to wear seat belts. We're required by law to wear other safety equipment like bike helmets. So please just think of that masking as a similar public health and safety requirement and measure. And thank you for that. Lastly, about reopening and about COVID in general, there's so many wonderful websites and resources popping up, both with where you can access help and support, and also where you can get the latest information. And I would just again urge everyone, please, 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 to stick to science-based, vetted professional websites. So for updates about the virus and testing and transmission rates and so on locally, please stick to the Lane County Public Health special page about coronavirus, the Oregon Health Authority website, or the CDC. Those are my go-tos for local, state, and broadly national information about COVID. And as far as resources and where you can get help that you might need, um, there's any number, the City of Eugene, the county, and now I'm blanking on the name of it. I shared it here on the page a while ago. Stay strong or stay safe. We'll find that link and we'll put that in the comments as well. But it's a nice way to sort what kind of help you need, whether you're looking for food assistance or help with income replacement or unemployment benefits or other services that you might need. United Way of Lane County is also a great resource if you need help or you want to offer help. Many, many organizations are seeing wonderful upticks in people offering to volunteer and help get needed resources to our neighbors. So thank you everyone for doing your part. I think it's a really interesting convergence that we're in this moment where we're all doing our part to improve our communities by voting for the leaders that we want to see help us get through COVID, and we're all doing our part to minimize the negative impacts of COVID by caring for one another, by wearing masks out in public, by minimizing our public activities, by checking in on our neighbors and our friends. It's all so important. It's all part of the whole of creating a stronger, healthier, more vibrant, supportive community for one another. So thank you for doing all your parts, from your ballot to your mask, to checking in on folks. Um, I also know one of the parts of reopening is hair salons and other personal care. Um, and I think everybody just has to make their own decision about whether they feel ready to put themselves in that at that risk as well as their service provider. And what I would ask everyone to please consider is, if you have the means and the capacity financially, if you do go back to a salon to get your nails did, to get your hair cut, to get a massage, whatever it is you do, if you have the capacity and you missed an appointment during the shutdown, that you give your provider the pay for the service you're receiving now and maybe either an extra large tip or even a whole other service's worth of a tip for the visit that you missed during the shutdown, because I'm sure all of our stylists and providers and so on are really hurting. They were some of the last to be able to receive unemployment benefits, and many never were able to get through the system in time to get those replacement wages. So do what you can if you have the capacity to support your local businesses and your service providers if and when you're ready to get back out there and receive those services. So thanks for that. As we wind it up, I want to talk a little bit about Election Day and take this opportunity, since this is the final primary season candidate coffee or tea. Cheers to that. As much as I have missed the in-person candidate forums, the community events, and certainly the door knocking, I've really enjoyed finding ways to supplant those with as many online interactions as possible. I'm really grateful to some of the people in organization who've organized some of the web-based candidate forums and interviews. So shout out, I'm going to forget some, but I'm going to shout out to the Eugene City Club, to Mark Molina, to Eugene Springfield Solidarity Network and the Solidarity Action Network, Eugene Chamber of Commerce. There have been a number of really great online web platform candidate forums and interviews. So thank you to all of those organizations. Some of my fellow candidates, Jamie McLeod Skinner running for Secretary of State, Mary Lucy Vinnis running her re-election campaign. Really enjoyed coming on and chatting with you this cycle and reaching some of our shared constituents that way. And it's really different making phone calls than canvassing, but I've been doing it every day, calling voters and having some really great conversations with folks. I miss not just the face-to-face interaction, but all of the other clues I get and sense I get of your lives when I canvass. Because when I come door knocking, right before I even knock your door, I can see if you like to garden. I can get a sense of what kind of bumper stickers do you have on your car. I get to pet your dogs and cats and get a glimpse into your life a little bit. And that's why I'm running. I'm running for all of you. I'm running for community. I'm running to better understand and then represent the needs of communities in District 3. And so I miss being out in those communities and sharing that experience with all of you. But I get a little bit of that by phone. I've had some great conversations with folks from all walks of life with all kinds of really thoughtful and important questions that they're asking of me as a candidate and issues that people are concerned about. I've been very both heartened and saddened by the huge number of people when I call to talk about issues who are concerned about our unhoused neighbors. And something I am just so deeply committed to is bringing a sense of urgency about addressing the humanitarian crisis of having nearly 2,000 people sleeping on the streets in Eugene each night, but also working hard and again with a sense of great urgency and boldness about the bigger picture, longer term policies and environmental changes we're going to need to reduce and prevent future homelessness. We have to. We simply have to. It's untenable, it's unsustainable, and it's inhumane to continue business as usual. So I'm really just feeling a huge sense of responsibility and commitment and excitement about the work ahead if I am so fortunate as to win this seat. And my goal has never changed, and that is to win it this Tuesday with over 50% of the vote. And so in the last few minutes, I'm going to share a little bit about what I'm expecting to do and how I could use your help on Election Day and between now and then. So first and foremost, if you're watching this video and it's not yet 8 p.m. on Election Day and you haven't turned a ballot in yet, get that done. That is job one. Doesn't matter how strong a field of candidates we have, doesn't matter how hard I campaign, if you don't turn your ballot in, I can't win. And regardless of whether you end up voting for me or not, I want every voter to fill out a ballot and turn it in. We have to participate in this process if we are to thrive as communities. We have to have voters voting. It's that simple. Finally, about that, if you have a friend or a neighbor that, or a colleague or anyone in your network that you have not yet reached out to and you're willing, great thing you can do is send a quick private message on Facebook, send out an email, encourage them not only to get their ballots completed and turned in, but let them know a little bit, a sentence or two about why you're supporting me to be your next county commissioner. I've been relying on a strong and broad grassroots network of support. Just thrilled and honored to see the list on my endorsements page of community leaders, activists, advocates, organizers, elected officials, and more supporting me, and the number of people who are sharing with me that they're sharing with their friends why they support me means a great deal. So thanks for helping get the word out. We do have a Facebook event page, which we can link to in the comments as well. That is, I'm going to the event, is I'm voting for Laurie Trieger. So if you want to hop on and RSVP you're going to the I'm voting for Laurie Trieger event, that helps pop it up in your feed and for your friends and networks to see that you're supporting my vision for a healthier, thriving Lane County for everyone. So thanks for doing that. On Election Day proper, I will do probably one or two quick little Facebook lives. I'll just hop on here to say a word or two throughout the day. But officially and formally at 5 for half an hour, so 5 to 5:30 p.m. We are going to do a little live feed here on Facebook Live through Zoom so that we can invite some folks that aren't on Facebook. It's a supporter appreciation. It's really going to be my opportunity to share my gratitude with the many people who have been volunteering, who've sent financial contributions, who've endorsed me, who voted for me. I'm just going to be really ready at 5 o'clock on election day to take a few minutes to say thank you and see a bunch of faces of supporters. County Commission Chair Heather Buck is going to join us for a few minutes to say a few words, and some of my greatest appreciation is going to go to her and several other leaders in our community who have been supporting me and guiding me in this journey of campaigning to be your next county commissioner. So be sure to join us on election day for our supporter appreciation Zoom Facebook Live party. And then the returns will start coming in a few minutes after 8. The first round of returns will be posted. I'm going to be at home with my immediate family to watch those returns come in. I'm going to have a small group of additional close friends and extended family members joining me on Zoom just to get that first hit and experience of what it feels like. I can hardly believe it's here. It's been 14 months that I've been working on this campaign, and we're talking about something that's now just 2 days away. Um, and then there's a number of, again, streaming online, Facebook Live, um, organizations like our local Democrat Party, the Emerge Oregon Network, and several other candidates. So I'm going to hop on as many of those feeds as time allows to say a few words and celebrate a great campaign regardless of what those returns show us on Tuesday. I'm very excited to see the returns. Again, my goal and my hope is to get over that 50% threshold on Tuesday. But if what those returns show is that we're going to a runoff, I'm ready to rest for a day or two and then get right to work and do the runoff as well. And I'm also prepared because of COVID and the challenges of getting ballots counted in time for us to not have final results on Tuesday night. There is certainly history of there sometimes being races that are too close to call on election day. So whatever the results, there'll be a number of times where I'll be hopping on and off various live streams sometime between 8 and 9 on election day, and I'm inviting and encouraging all of you who'd like to join us for our supporter appreciation event at 5 o'clock on election day to please do so. It's not too late to get on our email list. Go to the website, laurietrieger.com. Right on the homepage, you can sign up to receive our email updates, and you'll get, if you do that today, you'll get our special pre-election email tomorrow and our follow-up post-election messages and others moving forward. Again, share with your networks, friends, and family that you're voting for Laurie Trieger and why. And in closing, I'm going to wish you all a safe, healthy, happy Sunday. Take good care. Thank you so much for all of your help and support over these last few months, and really value and appreciate everything everyone's contributed. And thanks for taking time to sit with me on Sunday mornings. And I just am so appreciative. So thank you all. And I will see you on election day. Bye, everybody.